Welcome into Beyond the Buzzer, a Courier Sports podcast. Jim getting a little kick out of my intro to the show because it's the same one every time, and I'm really emphasizing the welcome because I just want you guys to
voice.
I just want you guys to feel comfortable. The smooth
welcome to the Courier
smooth baritone of Ethan Petrick. It's a comforting sound to a lot of people, and I just want you guys to get to experience that as well. Jim, Don, you guys have perfectly fine voices as well. Nowhere near the the tones that I'm putting out, but how you tell us how you guys are doing today before we get into what was a wild week in Courier Sports last week.
I am excellent today. Had a good weekend. It was fun. There was some work involved, but a little downtime too, so that was good.
Donald?
I forgot my middle name.
You haven't been that busy.
It's August.
Hey,
no,
Augie.
it's November.
Okay.
August?
All right. That was a good one, actually. I was hoping you had all the puns out, but that was a pretty good one. The fallback. How are we doing with the fallback, gentlemen? It's dark outside. I think it's the first time we've recorded with it being
Last
dark
night
outside.
I felt it. I'll be honest, that was weird because as I've gotten a little older, it was like 9:30. I'm like, I'm super tired. I should still be good to go. But it was like, I was ready for bed before 10, and that's wrong.
Donald, you got a take on the fallback?
My take is that it's darker later on in the morning, and it's darker earlier in the evening.
Well, I think I should maybe take a page out of Jim's playbook here, and maybe, given my poor goalieing performance on the ice last night,
It was
the fallback. It was daylight savings time that threw me off. Yeah,
maybe you should move back to your natural position. What is it, defenseman? Forward?
I've played all three. I do play forward in the league, and league is starting this week, so I will be back with the normal skates on, but the pads will be making an appearance each week, I'm sure. We'll go ahead and talk about some actually talented athletes here, not myself, because I'm certainly not a talented goaltender. Jim, how about you kind of talk to us a little bit about this story that you wrote in this, inflammatory, if not also true, headline. Dyke New Hartford 50-0. Are they the greatest ever? Tell me about that a little bit.
There's actually debate when you started really digging into it. So, but it was a good headline. It was appropriate too, because I think the point was to cause debate, cause some water cooler talk in Dyke and in Stout and in New Hartford, where I was pointed out. I go to the local coffee shop. That's where I was going to be able to talk, and then I was pointed out by one of my colleagues in the business that somebody's going to have to open up a coffee shop in Dyke in order for them to have a place to go and talk about coffee, water cooler stuff,
There's not like a pub that has coffee.
The pub could have coffee. You know who we're talking about. You could put like a nice espresso machine in there, Mark.
I wasn't. I just used pub as a word to describe a bar, not specifically his.
Okay. But I guess there's a counter at the Quick Star.
Okay.
They're in town, and there's Slice. I don't know if they're open for breakfast. The restaurant in town there, and then there's another bar. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of this bar, but there's another bar downtown Dyke, so it's not very big. In New Hartford, I'm not as clear about. I'm sure there's like a Moose Lodge or something. Same in Dyke, but hey.
There was a coffee shop in my hometown. It closed, and so then my grandpa and his buddies, when they went and got coffee, they went and got it at a sandwich shop. I was from a community much larger than Dyke, but not anywhere near this area. So, but yeah, I feel like
you were going down a road there.
I feel like there's a restaurant that serves coffee that there could be some discussion at.
Yeah.
What makes you? What are maybe the pros to picking the 2023 Wolverines?
I think what you got to look at it is they had wins over both the 5A champ and the 5A runner up. They had wins over. They didn't face the 3A champ, and they didn't face either the 4A finalists. But they had a win over they had 3 wins over the 3A runner up. They beat everybody in the 2A field, and they beat a handful of the best 1A schools too. So they went 110-1 in sets. 110-1 sets. They lost one set, and that was in August.
It was close in that opening round. They got
Against
a little
Eddyville, that was close. Eddyville probably should. A lot of people could say Eddyville should have won that one.
Yeah, the EBF definitely had a good game plan going to that first set, and it was gone after the second set. It was like 20. What was the final score? 25-5.
Something like that.
Yeah, something gross. But yeah, it was.
But you just look at what they did. 50-0. That's hard to do, and it's hard to do it without losing a couple sets. Or you play so much that you lose. A lot of them, they're not traditional 3-set games or 3-game matches. They're the 2 games. So you get into a tournament, and they play 2, and if you lose one, you go to a third. But that didn't happen. It didn't happen after they split the first 2 games against Dowling. They lost to Dowling, and then they ended up winning that match, and they didn't lose another set. I think that was probably close to 100 straight sets they won. After that, they lost a set. They won over 100 straight sets. That's incredible. They were just dominant, and they didn't do it easy. You look in the regional tournament, they gave up, I can't remember what it was, in 3 matches, they gave up like 75 points, and 3 of them are, maybe it might not even been that, and that's, that's playing that's playing 9 games. So they were giving up less than almost 10 points a game in those matches. So it was that's dominant to get to the state tournament. And then, in the championship match, Hinton was a game in the game 2, but in the first game and the second game, they were early on in the first game, and then Dyke pulled away, and then the third game it was Dyke saw the finish, and they closed. So 50-0, you just think about that. 50-0 is incredible. 3 Division I athletes. I mean, last year's runner-up team had 4. So, and they didn't win, but that's another story. But you go back to it, they didn't have. It was the first undefeated team in state history since Dyke did it in 2013, and they went 45-0. A year after they went 45-0 in 2012, so they had a 103-match win streak in that time. So you can talk about that. And then the 2014 team, some people say might have been the best team ever. They lost 2 matches that year. They lost to Mother McCauley out of Chicago, a powerhouse in the Chicago area in a tournament. And then they were missing their 6'6" middle blocker, Brooke Morgan, who played at Kentucky in a match that they lost to Sumner Fredericksburg and that year. Otherwise, they just dominated everybody. And that one featured 6 future Division I athletes on it that played Division I volleyball. So there's argument there. At least even in the last 10 years, is this the best team? And then some people, what about the teams that Bobby Becker played on? Bobby Peterson, the UNI volleyball coach. What about those teams back in the 80s, And Bobby will tell you it was a different game back then. And here's a great question. If you ever want, ask any of the current players what side-out scoring is, and none of them will know. It's pretty funny that nobody knows. They played side-out scoring back in the day where you had to have the ball to score a point. It wasn't rally scoring where there was a point earned on every serve. You had to be serving to score back in the day, and that's what they played back when Bobby played. And she said it was a different game. I think she had a record. A Missouri Valley Conference. I'm going down another rabbit hole.
It was tied recently by an Evansville player.
Evansville player, like 40, and she goes, "Well, we did things back in that match that we never did. We served back row. We didn't. Back then you didn't serve back row. Now that's commonplace. You see back row served all the time." And she goes, "Well, I must have had like 95 attacks in that match or something like that." So it's funny. She'll talk about it, and she'll discount any of the great teams that she played on back in the 80s. But, there's a lot of debate on probably in the last 10 years who was the best. And it would be, if you could put them all, you could somehow have a magic ball and you could put them all or some kind of magic trick and you could put them, where the 2023 team had to play the 2012 team and 2012 had to play the 2014 team where they would be playing some of the same players were playing against each other, some kind of an AI-generated thing here. It could be pretty fun to watch. But, yeah, I can't imagine they weren't – they're not the best, they're the most dominant. I think that would be fair to say the most dominant team in state history. That would probably be more fair. The best, maybe not, but the most dominant, probably.
If we had an editor that wasn't me for the videos, I would say, "Hey, editor, can we maybe get a clock on how long Jim's rant just was?" We're at 9.
Yes,
we're at
asked me to talk about it.
We're at 9:25 in the episode right now, and I think you might have been 9:24 of that.
I'm a video hog.
You're selling 2023 short. Actually, 44 points is all they gave up in the regional tournament. Yeah, so pretty dominant. Donald, you've covered Dyke New Hartford in a couple of different sports. You've seen the senior class. You were at the the Clash of the Titans, the 2A Titans. Did a little story about the UNI commits there.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about what you've seen from the Wolverines and just how dominant this team has been in 2023 to help maybe support their case to be the greatest ever?
In one word, surgical. They are very precise with how they play this game. Everyone knows their part. Everyone knows their place wherever they are in the rotation. There's this kind of surgical precision that you see in how they play, and they get things done. It's just a ruthless efficiency, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
That was a good analogy. Really good analogy. So, yeah, no. Just loaded with talent. Great team. Great. And you talked to them, and I was making fun of the Peterson sisters, Jaden and Peyton. I'm making fun of the dad, called me up afterwards and said thanks me for the coverage. And I was making fun of, you got to work on the post-game interviews, man. He goes, oh, no, we don't. We have. It's all about being humble. It's about team first. And that's what when you talk to anybody on that Dyke New Hartford squad, the first thing they bring out is we're team first. There's we're not the best ever. It's not about winning the next title. It's team first, being team, doing your part, and then whatever happens. But yeah, but they were, yeah. I just want some flavor. Like, yeah, we kicked their butts. We knew we were going to kick their butts, but I couldn't get that out of them. I even threw some softballs at both Jaden and Peyton in the post championship presser, and they wouldn't swing for the fences. They're just fine with the bunt singles. Four well executed bunts scores a run, right?
In that we mentioned that EBF game, the quarterfinal win for DNH, and I was impressed with junior Shannon Moorman. I covered that game, and she had a couple of big plays when they were kind of listless in that first set. She kind of got something sparked there, and then Jaden Peterson, I think, was the player of that match because I can't remember. I think 16 kills is what Jaden ended up with in that game. So Shannon Moorman, she had the game sealing block in that first set to win it. But Jaden Peterson really came on strong in the final too.
This team is built to succeed. I would say they're probably going to take a little bit of a step back next year, but they have a lot of valuable contributors, and I've heard a lot about their freshman class, and they had hardly any freshmen, stepping up. I think the freshmen were undefeated or something to that effect. So, they're going to rebuild. It's not going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised they're contending next year. So it's a program. And they got some other young kids coming up. So, and like I said, Shannon Moorman, you're looking at that one. Their back row, their libero, Addie Jensen's back. Both their setters are back. And there's one other middle, and I'm losing my mind trying to remember her name.
Well, they've been winning titles long before Jaden and Peyton.
Well, they're older sisters. Each won 3 titles too.
Well, there's you can
be winning after too.
You combine the two names there. There's Addie Joslin and Abby Jensen.
Yes, Abby Jensen.
And then there's Lucy Varney. Maddie Buskell.
Yep.
Kaylin Meester's a freshman that was on the squad this year. Izzy Norton Jr. on the squad this year. Mallory Peterson, not related to the Peterson clan, sophomore. Keely, I cannot read my tiny text.
Come on.
Keely Cowton, sophomore.
Yeah.
So that's the underclassmen, the potential returning players for next year.
That team's going to be very competitive. And go ahead, Don. Sorry.
But my point was that they have a very strong success culture, and that runs deeper than individual talent.
Yeah, for sure. And they do have individual talent.
Extremely talented as they are.
Yeah.
As undeniable as the talent is.
I think that's a good question that we haven't went down yet. We haven't talked about any other nickel teams. This senior. I talked to us extensively. I talked to a lot of people when I was down at State all last week, and this was not just only in the North Iowa Cedar League, but across the state of Iowa. This senior class was exceptional. I can't remember what the number of that somebody told me how many Division I athletes across the state they were producing in volleyball. I mean, it was over a dozen. Incredible amount of talent of in the state of Iowa this year. But you look at the nickel. There's a lot of teams that that were senior dominated. You're going to see the Grundy Center with Carly Willis and L.A. Lurin. That was senior dominated team. You look at Denver, not so much. They lose Jessica Gergen, but they return quite a few people there. I think they lose Elena Hildebrandt.
They get both of the Moolahans back though.
Yep. and Channing Johnson's back, so they could be one of the favorites in that NICL Central, I think it is. You look, Sumner Fredericksburg loses a couple big seniors, including the UNI recruit Isabel Elliott. And Union has a decent team. They're going to lose. They'll lose the big Gracie Klima. She graduates, but they return a lot of good players and they lose their two big 6'1" middle hitters. So they have some people to replace there. So another state qualifier. It'll be interesting to see where the nickel is at next year. We've talked so much about how great it is. A big, super talented senior class graduates this year. Who are the new faces going to be next year? That'll be fun to see next year. But anyway, it was an awesome state tournament this week. A lot of great volleyball. Extreme Arena, and the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Association knows how to put on a state tournament there. Atmosphere was fantastic. I tell you, the 5A schools really showed out.
Well, before you get too far along in your compliments, I do have a question for you because I saw some discourse, some heckling from the Peanut Gallery about the state tournament, and that championship game was played on Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
And Thursday and Friday were the Thursday?
Just Thursday, all day Thursday.
So the irritation there is that it's harder for people to come to the games because they don't have like a Friday night to travel or a Saturday morning to travel. And I'm sitting there like, well, a lot of these teams, thinking about Dyke New Hartford,
they're in the football playoffs.
They played the championship on Thursday, and then the volleyball team was able to come back on Friday and cheer on the football team in Grundy Center. Where are you at in the should they or shouldn't they play schedule championships on Thursdays?
I get that. I get where the people are coming from that, but I think that's the thing is I think they're trying to stay away from high school football. I think maybe they could take a day off, but then you have arena just sitting there and the kids sitting there, extra hotel rooms for across the state. And you could play them on Saturday to give them, their own thing. But then, if you're having them in Coralville, Iowa was on the road this weekend. But what if Iowa's home that weekend? And now you have, the hotel prices are already probably a little higher than normal. And now you have an Iowa home game, and they're really more. So I think Monday through Thursday it works. It works for the girls. It allows them to feature. Yeah, it's hard for people to be there at 10 o'clock on a Thursday, or some of the semifinals 10 o'clock on a Thursday, but I tell you what, the Wednesday semifinals for 5A, which included Waukee Northwest and all there were a lot of high school kids there. I mean, the schools really do a great job of getting student buses there, and I think the fans are. I get it. I get what they're saying about why is it on Thursday at 10 o'clock? That doesn't make any sense. But I think there's been a lot of thought that goes into it, and you move it to Friday. And the girls unit puts in it the 2As and the 1As, the 3As typically bring more fans. This case, I would argue that 5A this year and 4A they had some pretty large crowds that would have been hard to match. I think what you're looking at there is you have the choice. These girls some of these small schools, 2A school, there's only a couple hundred students there. So they want to be at the football game, and now. How much you take away if you play that on Friday night in the high school football playoffs? How many people are coming to the state volleyball? And I tell you what, I love covering the state volleyball championships. This is not a knock on it, but this is reality. Is a lot of towns they get behind their foot, especially if they're in the playoffs, the football playoffs. It's football oriented. There's a lot. Football is talk. Football's king. Mm-hmm. Football's king in the fall. It's easy to say that, but I tell you what, the girls' union has thought this through. On Thursday night. Volleyball's the queens. They're the queen. And they had a crown there, and they gave out tiaras. It was awesome. I tried to get Gene Berger to give me a tiara. Gene, this is another another plug. If I could get a tiara, I just want one. They gave tiaras to all the team champions.
Well, so you should have.
She wouldn't give me one.
You should have complained about the state then. So
I just wanted a tiara.
Put them in a situation where if they give you a tiara. You're going to give them good coverage.
I'd give them good. I just wanted a tiara. It was just to see what Gene's response would be. So, Gene,
all right,
I still want a tiara.
Quarter removed from Jim. We're done. I've put like 3 into the vending machine that is Jim's mouth today. Donald, I'd like to hear from you because we both got to go down on Tuesday, which might have been the most eventful day in Courier volleyball this last season. What did you see? Well, do you have a comment about the state tournament?
that music they play at the Oscars when when the acceptance speech is going too long.
We have to
We-
get
we
that
can
for Jim.
install that.
Jim's music.
I'm not familiar. I don't watch the Oscars, so I don't even know what you're talking
Well,
about.
I mean, it's a
You get a
well
buzzer.
known- Yeah.
I could play like the Jeopardy music.
There you
That's
go.
the music I know.
Yeah, you can't talk past the buzzer.
You put a microphone in front of me,
You
I'm
don't
gonna
want to
talk
go
into it.
beyond the buzzer. And
It should be like a speech contest, right? Like hold up the colored cards, and once you
chess things.
once you
All
have
right,
the red card, you're 10 seconds
Tuesday,
left.
though.
Yeah. Tuesday. Don, what's your takeaway from Tuesday?
a 16-hour day, was a lot of time to see a lot of talent.
And a lot of time to stare at gray
Yeah.
brick walls in the field house
And a
connected
lot of
to
time
Extreme
do
Arena.
that,
Yeah.
but mostly to look at some really good talent. I gave coverage either in the form of writing or taking video for the Applington Parkersburg versus Hinton game, which of course Hinton being the runner-ups for 2A. Unfortunately, that was a sweep for Applington Parkersburg. But when I was talking to Coach Kleepsies, she was telling me about how they've overcome all these obstacles, tough competition in the NICL, including in their own postseason, and in a competition. With competition, especially as hard as that, to be back in the conversation and to kind of have a seat at the table at the NICL, just that alone is a great accomplishment for Applington Parkersburg. Dyke New Hartford, Grundy Center, of course, had a really good match against Kemper Catholic, covering that, in which it went to, I believe, 4 sets. And then, of course, Don Bosco in their game against Holy Trinity, which unfortunately did not go the way they wanted. But again, really good competition that they were playing against. And just getting to make it to state is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, I think that I don't think any team would be too terribly disappointed with an appearance in Coralville. Every team that makes it down there obviously has dreams of securing a tiara like Jim, but
you're one of the top 8 schools in the state of Iowa if you're able to do just that. So,
yeah, yep. And I got to cover 4 games. I think I did video for Union, which they had a nice win over Cherokee, who was the 2 seed coming in. So that was a real electric atmosphere to be at. I thought the LaPorte City community came out for the Union community, if you will, came out for the Knights very well. I was very impressed with the student section I saw there. Got to cover Dyke New Hartford's scare in the first set and then dominance the rest of the way. I got to see St. Ansgar and BCLUW play what was probably the equivalent of the North Tama AGWSR match this year. So Jim can finally live that down, that he stuck me over on a different game while that super match was happening last year.
Yeah, you got a 5-setter, and all I can remember is you complained about it.
I didn't complain about.
I got the 3-setter. You got the 5.
I didn't complain about it. I was just giving you a hard time because my wife was complaining to me about how long I had been in Iowa City at that point, or
You could have
Coralville.
brought her. She could have went to Trader Joe's.
She's not going to busy herself for 6 minutes.
What's that?
Olivia Peters, freshman for BCLUW. I think she had 21 kills in the win over St. Ansgar. I was covering the St. Ansgar angle for Mason City, but Olivia Peters had a nice match.
Yeah.
That was probably a big takeaway for me. I had a good time. The flowers next to me got crushed by a ball. Fortunately, it wasn't my
Great
face.
Picture. Great picture.
Yes, fortunately, it wasn't my face. I did almost take one off the dome a couple other times that day.
You got to be alert on press row at state volleyball.
But I mean, if you guys want to stop by the Courier office to pick up a Thursday edition of the Courier, we had 3 pages dedicated to state volleyball.
Nice Saturday section too.
And the Saturday section had 2 pages dedicated to state volleyball, with plenty of pictures, and try to get a picture in of every team we had down there. And I think I succeeded at that when I was laying it out. So really pleased with those. Donald, did you have a final parting comment before we move into last Friday or last Thursday and Friday?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. I
do have personal tragedy. I do have more. I have
Personal
more.
tragedy.
There's personal tragedy.
All right. You got 30 seconds starting now.
Fuzzy's Tacos was closed. They closed. Right across the street, it was my lunch every day for like every year time I go to the Extreme Arena, and they were closed. They shut up. That was very tragic for me. 30 seconds.
That was actually 15, so I appreciate it. But yeah, Fuzzy Tacos will be missed. Also closed in Lincoln, where I went to school. So,
Oh, they closed all over, huh?
oh yeah, it's some garbage like weird fusion restaurant now. I just go to the sub shop that's connected to it now.
All right.
When I'm in Lincoln, I'm not there very
Moving
often.
on.
Maybe
Moving
the
on.
name is just unappetizing.
It's
No,
not.
their tacos
It's
are
not.
good.
They had a
Tacos
sweet
are
red
good.
pepper on the logo. I still have a Fuzzy's cups in my cabinet. But
They
we'll
make
go
good
ahead
food.
we'll go ahead and shift gears to the buzz of the week. We haven't really emphasized the play on words that is this podcast, so I thought I was really sharp coming up with it, so I wanted to put it back
Let's play
in
some
focus.
buzz.
All right. We bring you during the regular season the buzz that what people are talking about from the games. And then with this podcast, we go beyond the buzz. So we're going beyond the game. End of the game, we're going beyond the buzz that we're giving you. It's real clever. And so I wanted to bring in a new segment for the show, which I had been calling Friday Night Replay. Now it's Buzz of the Week. We're focusing the Buzz of the Week on our football coverage from this last week. Donald, you had Don Bosco, Winfield, Mount Union, and West Hancock, Wapsie Valley this week. What are your what's your one buzz from each of those games?
My one buzz for Don Bosco and Winfield Mountain Union, that's an easy one. That's just how close it was and how competitive it was right to the end. Really just such a tough way to end the season. But Caden Kanak did a fantastic job through that game and through that season. Unfortunately, the last pass was an interception that ran out the clock, for the go-ahead. But, it does not take away from anything he did that game or anything he did that entire season. He is a standout athlete in a school of fantastic athletes. And, Caden, if you're watching this, and you're probably not, you did a great job this year. All you guys did.
And I don't know. I think just judging from my discussions with Coach Yoder going into the year, I think if I had told him at that time when I was making my 5 area teams to watch list, hey, you're going to be in it with a chance to win at the very end of the game against the number 1 seed in the playoffs, in the quarterfinal round, I think he would have told me
so.
I'm going to take that, because he had some concerns about how his team was going to look, lacking size this year, and I think that they kind of, they found a way to be as successful as they have been year in, year out. I think they actually made it further this year, because I think they dropped in the round of 16 last year to Newell Fonda. So a really impressive season for the Dons, and so I don't think anything to be disappointed with, especially who you faced in the quarterfinal round.
You don't see too many 8-player teams with 2 Division I football recruits.
And now I look forward to I'll be looking forward to their wrestling season, because now I know a good place to eat there.
Wapsie Valley, West Hancock, Donald.
Wapsie Valley, West Hancock. That one's a little trickier. Thankfully, we had a story for that one with the Globe Gazette too. That was a pretty dominant win, 44-22. But this was a very young team at Wapsie Valley. They graduated off 16 seniors, and the ones that they do have playing didn't have much varsity experience, and yet they were able to make it as far as they did last year to the quarterfinals, 1 game away from the Unidome. Decker had a fantastic season, so did Sauerbrei. Their defense was phenomenal all year. This was only the second 2-digit scoring game that they gave up besides their loss to Denver. So, again, nothing taken away from them. West Hancock, of course, they were the runners-up last year in Class A.
Champions 2 years ago.
And they definitely showed why they still were in contention. Again, these were also big kids. I was watching this with Goodall, and just how they're basically dragging these kids on these big runs that they're making. It's unbelievable, the size comparison.
Yeah, I'm sure, Jim, you've been out to a West Hancock game yet this year?
I have not seen West Hancock, but I've seen them play in the past.
I watched them.
The playoffs.
I watched the playoffs.
Yeah, I watched it on TV. They're just, this is a program we talk about. How Dyke New Hartford volleyball. These kids grew up running this triple option offense. They they grew up. They know how to run this option when they're in the 6 years old. That's probably when they're starting training them there. And so these kids know how to run this offense, and they're in the playoffs every year. They're in the Final Four a lot. I wrote this up. I think this was the 5th time in 6 years they made the semifinals. So
I guess this is the question for Donald. Don, did they throw the ball? Did Wes Hancock throw the ball at all?
A little bit. Yeah, they did.
They
had a couple of good deep passes there, especially that first one for the go-ahead that they, of course, kept. Well, it wasn't a go-ahead touchdown pass, but it got them to like 1st and goal. So it was a 35-yard dime. It was.
Well, I shouldn't have pried more because you should have just told me to read your story, Donald. That's what I would. That's
Fair.
what. Yeah, just go read Donald's story.
Read our journalist.
Read our work. Jim, you were at Columbus. You also got the skinny on Cedar Falls. So I'd like to know what the buzz is. I think it's pretty obvious what the buzz is from Cedar Falls, but go ahead and give us the Sailors first, and then we can get to the Tigers.
Well, this is a team I think back in August, and I wrote this, they talked about wanting to play on the dome floor. And I thought they had a hell of a team last year. They graduated a couple pieces off that, but then you talk about it, and head coach Brad Schmidt said this is going to be the best offensive line we have. We got a guy that can run the ball. We got a quarterback who had some success as a junior, but then he really ramped up his efforts to improve himself. And it reminisces of myself. We'll get into that. Schmidt was a quarterback at their state championship in 2004. His junior season, he said he wasn't very good. In his senior season, he threw like 20 touchdown passes, and that's what you've seen now out of the improvement out of Carter Locker this year. Is he went from a pretty decent quarterback last year to a pretty exceptional quarterback this year, who is completing like 65 to 70% of his passes. They got playmakers all over the field. Nick Merrifield, Parker Gajelton, Thomas Steele has really had 2 huge playoff games. He's emerged. I'm missing Miles Gardner. So they got all phases, and they play defense well enough. And Mason Knipp is just the X factor. I think. And I lost track because I was doing my own stats, taking the pictures, and you can sometimes lose track. But I think he had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss in this game.
So 4 tackles for loss.
4 tackles for loss. Yeah, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. And there might have been more in there. He was just, when he wants to get in the backfield, he gets in the backfield. And part of that, and part of it was Columbus's strategy. I'm getting off topic here, and I'll slow it down. Is they play? Columbus has been standing him up and playing him some linebacker too, so he has some bigger impact, so people can't run away from him. So, but when he lines up along the line, he's hard to block. So they got all this. It was very reminiscent to the 2014 that won the title. The only thing different here is they had their playoff. They were locked into the playoffs 2-3 weeks ago, where the Brad Schmidt team, they needed to win their final week. They had to win their final game of the regular season to make the playoffs, and then to get some help, and they got that help. And then they won a game. Then they won a game, and they got in the dome. And when they got in the dome, their speed and their quickness, this team so much mirrors them when it comes to style of play and what they can do. They can go over the top. They can run the ball downhill. They can play really good defense. So that's the buzz. This team eerily has a very similar makeup. Now, they're in the semifinals, and they get the defending champs. Team that's played in the last 4 state championships.
Not the defending champs in 1A, but a defending champ.
A team they played and have lost to this year. But I tell you what, they kind of handed that to Granite Center. Granite Center scored 2 defensive touchdowns in that game, and one of them was probably Carter Lockhart's worst play of the year, where he tried to throw a ball out of the end zone. He hits the back of one of his players, and it bounces back to the guy that was holding on to him for a pick 6. And all the guy had to do is reach up and go, "Hey, look at this, touchdown." So, and then they had a fumble that was returned by Colin Gordon, 90-some yards for a touchdown. So, Granite Center scored 2 defensive touchdowns and won the game 21-14. So Columbus has a lot of confidence going into this game against a team that knows how to make it to the championship. And Granite Center has been playing very well. That game is 1 o'clock Friday? 10 o'clock Friday. 1 or 10 o'clock.
I think it's 10 on Friday.
10 o'clock Friday. Grundy Center, Columbus Catholic in the Dome. That should be pretty good. I'll wrap that one up. Now moving on to Cedar Falls. And this is one that probably surprised a lot of people across the state. 2-time defending 5A state champ Southeast Polk. Number 1 all year, or pretty much all year. 10-0, 9-0, 10-0. Where they were going into this game with Cedar Falls, who was, 6-3 or 7-3, and started slow, started the season 1-2, got Drake Galehouse back, started to play really well, and then started to play really well down the stretch. I was on the sidelines. I checked my X feed, and I see the Tigers are down 21-0. I'm oof in the first half, and I'm like, this isn't going their way. And then you get busy covering your game, and I didn't see any more virtue updates. I get home, the first thing I do is, and I live just a couple blocks from Columbus TJ McLaughlin Field. And I get home and I check to see what the Tigers score, and the final score is 21-20. I'm like, what? I gotta do more research. So my story, Columbus, is here. Well, that's the Columbus. I'm sorry, Columbus Catholic readers, that story didn't get posted until after midnight, almost, because I had to track down some Cedar Falls facts. I sent a couple emails, checked a lot of Twitter feed, and pieced together a story. And it turns out the Cedar Falls rallied. They got a big punt return from Logan Rowe right before half. They got them to 21-7. Scoreless third quarter, but when I got a hold of Brad Remmert the next day, he talked about how they had started to control the line of scrimmage on both sides, and they eliminated the mistakes. They had 2 or 3 turnovers in the first half that helped Southeast Polk out. And then Drew Gertis they turn a long drive into a touchdown, and then they get the ball back with like 4 minutes on their side of the field, and they march right down the field. They moved it right down, did what they wanted to, and they ran their old trick play where they flipped it to Logan Rowe, and Tate Hermanson ran a wheel route outside of a form of a wheel route outside of the backfield, the quarterback, and Rowe hit him in stride, touchdown with 30-some seconds left, and it's 21-20. And Cedar Falls got 2 Division I recruits on their offensive line, Jacob Peter, Will Tompkins. Drake Galehouse was playing like an all-state running back. Brad Remmert, I talked to him, he goes, we were dominating the line of scrimmage. We had a good play called. Southeast Polk made the play to win the game. And they came up a half yard short. They score that, and it's 22-21 with, I think, 34 seconds left in the game. Maybe 39. I can't remember what I wrote. Whatever I had was the fact. But Southeast Polk would have had to score, drive down and kick a field goal. And I don't know if they had any timeouts left or anything on that. But, talking to Coach Remmert, he goes, we didn't even hesitate. We knew what we wanted to do because we had been dominant in the line of scrimmage. We're on the road. We're playing the two-time defending champs. You go for the win. And they went for the win. And, on social media, people defended that call. They thought you go for the win. Because you get to overtime, you're not favored. You might have them panicked a little bit, but usually I think if the analytics would say the team that's the 2-time defending champs on their home turf has got a little bit of advantage in overtime. So I applaud the call. It was great. What a way to come back. Nobody would predict that. Southeast Polk, I think, won their last 3 games by like an average of 35, 36 points, maybe more than that. I mean, they were just blowing people out left and right, not just your everyday opponent. They were blowing out some really playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think their previous playoff game they just won by 50. So, but when you're down 21-0 a team that's won the last 2 titles, and you have a shot to win at the end. Hat off to the Cedar Falls Tigers. They played a whale of a game to get back into it and nearly pull it off. So yeah. So I probably went 11 minutes there. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I can see both sides of the argument. You're as hot as you are as a team. Why not go into overtime as the team that has momentum? But at the same time, like you said, analytics probably would indicate that Southeast Polk would have the advantage going into overtime. So I can understand both sides, and I certainly, I don't want to spoil anything. You can hear what Coach Remmert thinks about using hindsight as an advantage, what he thinks about his decision. If you read Jim's story, which is available on the WCFcourier.com. Talk about my buzz. I was at Gladbrook Rhinebeck Clarksville, the rematch from a game 4 weeks ago that came down to a last-minute touchdown. Clarksville, another team like West Hancock that likes to run the ball a lot, went and passed, got a touchdown in the final minute, and they got a 2-1 conversion on another pass to win 38-36. Different story this time. Gladbrook Rhinebeck ended up winning 32-20. It felt more distant than a 12-point win. It was just kind of a show of force for the Rebels, who had held a number 1 spot for a while. The paper down south, one of those papers down south, had ranked them number 1 in the preseason rankings. And so I think Gladbrook Rhinebeck, it was a reset a bit as they went out. And when I talked to Coach Olson after the loss against Clarksville, he said, we just didn't make the plays tonight. I asked him, did you make the plays tonight? And he said, we made the plays. We made the plays. So that's the buzz is the Rebels make the plays. And that's what they ended up doing. I can think back specifically to a run that Isaac Clark had. It was a 30-yard gain on 3rd and 15 from the 34. Had Clarksville gotten a stop, they would have had the ball in decent field position and could have gone down and cut the lead to one score. And instead, Isaac Clark sets up another touchdown, and the Rebels were able to kind of hold on from there and win. Looking at the Grundy Center game, I think the buzz is 11 plays in the first half that Grundy Center holds Dyke to. Just another, like I said, with Gladbrook Rhinebeck, kind of a show of force for the Spartans. There were maybe some question marks. How are they going to do when they step up a class? And they just kind of told everyone this last weekend, like, hey, we're undefeated, and we're not really concerned about what we can do in the postseason. And at the same time, win their final home game. The senior class goes 28-0 at Spartan Stadium over their 4 years, 7 wins each year. Just an incredible 4 years for that program, and they're looking for their 5th straight state title berth this weekend when they take on the Sailors. So certainly one to watch. You got a point?
I know I got a point to finish. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was done. So go ahead
You're
and wrap.
done?
Go
All
ahead
right.
and wrap us up.
Are we done? We ready to wrap?
Yeah, we're ready to wrap.
Well, there's some congrats to go out. We had 2 area athletes commit to wrestle at Northern Iowa this week. Jace Hedeman from Union LaPorte City, a 2-time state champion. He's still got 2 years left at Union. He committed to Northern Iowa, and Kyler Knack, the Fargo junior national champ, last year's 152-pound state champion at Don Bosco in Class 1A. He also committed to Northern Iowa. I know Minnesota was looking really hard at Kyler. So 2 big gets for the Panthers, 2 area athletes moving on to Division I wrestling ranks. Just wanted to throw a shout out to those 2 guys.
All right, awesome. Thank you for mentioning that, Jim. We got Wrestling Media Day on Thursday, so be sure to keep it tuned for that.
There's some wrestling news breaking tomorrow.
Keep it tuned to the Courier tomorrow as well. So I appreciate you guys making the time for me today. I know we're a little bit later than you would have liked, so we'll go ahead and get out of here. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back next week.